Surprise, late night this week in startups taping. It is a late night, and tomorrow we have all in taping at 11 a.m. So I decided, since there were all these earnings occurring today, that we would do an earnings call and talk about Uber, talk about Peloton, talk about Airbnb, and all this great news that's dropping in the afternoon today. The editors will edit this overnight, and it will appear in your podcast player in the morning. So for all my Noti gang, you get to experience the show early. So welcome to all my Noties coming in strong. I'm not going to have the time to read everybody's name today, but I should read the number 1, 2, and 3 person here. So maybe Nick, can you give me the top 3 Noties? Who came in first, second, third, fourth, and fifth? Give me my top 5.
Alex Petropolo.
Never heard of him. That's a first. Alex is first.
Guy. Yeah,
New guy. Well done on the Noti gang.
Gordon Gill Schmaler was second. Mike Sherbakov was third. Brandon Francis was fourth. Babur Razilov was fifth.
Babur.
He said, "Love you, Jason."
Oh, Babur, love you.
Surge Dog was sixth. Chester
Surge
N.
Dog Millionaire.
Yeah, Surge Dog Millionaire. Chester N was seventh. Famous Lists was eighth. Brandon Francis was ninth, but he already did it, so he doesn't count. Dilip Jagadish.
What happened to SDG 80? Where's SDG 80?
Zen Prophet missed out on the top 10 today. Sorry, buddy.
Wow, Zen Prophet. Wow,
yeah.
Disappointed.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Yikes.
It's okay.
Right.
It was a late night.
Long season.
It's a long season. You're gonna have an off night, and yeah. All right, so let's get started with the show, everybody. Great to see everybody here on the Noti gang. Just do me a favor for your squad. Give us a thumbs up, smash the thumbs up, and we got a treat for you today. Not only am I going to do the news, but we're going to do our first OK Boomer segment with Rachel reporting. So she is going to come on and do the first OK Boomer. We'll see if you like it. And if you like it, we'll keep doing it. There you go. By the way, Nick, is my video screen coming in dark?
Yeah, so dark. It just turned so
Very
dark.
Strange.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just turn off my video and turn it.
Now just got.
Whoa, that was. Whoa.
What did you? What did
I didn't do anything. I just I hovered over the video button, and like the software was like, okay, I'll stop that. I'll put your camera back. Nothing changed in my room in terms of lighting, because my video, like my self monitor over here, was perfect. The one on the left hand side was perfect, and the main one was weird. So that's something happened at Restream. All right, so let's get started. 177 today, Nick. Thanks for noticing. 196 to 177.
I know. It's funny. I was
golden delicious apple. Every day you got to hit a golden delicious. The best.
Somebody was asking me the other day how Jason was, and I was like, he's getting weird as he loses. The more weight he loses, the weirder he's getting. Because now you're just texting me screenshots of your weight loss every morning, and I'm like, I'm happy for you, but does it have to be every day?
It's not every day.
You lost a half a pound. Congratulations. But it's just,
you're making it
listen,
up, son of a bitch.
Do I need this every morning? I don't think I need it every morning.
Wow.
Yeah, but why is it in the group chat?
Bi-weekly.
It's not in the group chat. What are you talking about?
No, it's a personal text. That's why it's even weirder. I'm like, what are
I'm
you
not
doing,
sure,
brother?
I don't know if we need a Slack channel devoted to it. Honestly, I'm not sure.
Jason's weight. It's just like, I got rid of random. I renamed random Jason's weight today. It goes from my Weaving scale directly. Actually, I had started a concept called fat blogging back in the blogging days. I said every day talk about your weight loss struggles. And I owned the domain fat blogging. And then everybody was taking their Weaving scale and automatically sending it to Twitter. So I had Jason's weight like a Twitter handle. And we were just like, a bunch of us were, doing like, what do they call that when you...
Yeah, it's funny. You guys talk about viral loops all the time, right? We were talking about it the other day. Like you and Sachs basically had a viral loop of weight loss via fat shaming.
Yes.
Because you were like, oh my God, you're so gross. And Tremath was so bad to Sachs. And then Sachs was like, all right, fuck this. I'm losing weight. So he starts losing weight. And then he's like, now Jason, you're gross. And you're like, oh, okay, here we go. And now
we'll
it's
see.
like a competition and viral loop of weight loss. It's great.
It is. I'm a big fan of fat shaming. I don't... you can cancel me if you want, but fat shaming worked for me. It may not work for you, but it worked for me. And it worked for Sachs. So I'm not saying fat shame somebody you love. I'm saying fat shaming worked for me. And I encourage you to fat shame me. If I gain the weight back.
What's the reverse of fat shaming? It's sending your nephew your daily weight updates on your weight loss app. That's the reverse of fat shaming.
No, it's body positivity.
Yeah.
large and in charge.
Sending screenshots of
Oh,
your
man.
current
This is
weight.
healthy. This is healthy. Like that
Your
famous
your
cover.
your introduction to Yami Yang's bagel company, and you're like, it's really bad to be fat, and she practically
She was
squealed. It
absolutely
was
so uncomfortable
amazing.
Yeah, that was-
with
it
my
was
view on
ridiculous.
obesity. But I just think like something weird has happened in the world where you can't say being fat is bad. I mean, it's clearly being fat is bad. It's not desirable.
Yeah.
Because you're
I don't
going
think
to
she
die.
expected you to go fat and COVID deaths like 30
Yeah,
seconds
welcome
in.
to the program. Congratulations
Yeah.
on your new bagel.
And she was
If
like,
you're
I
fat,
thought
you're
I
going
was
to die of COVID.
yeah,
The end.
I thought I was here to talk about food science. What is going on right now? Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, sometimes people just don't know what to make of that. And we're wondering why the Zillow CEO doesn't want to come on. Oh, poor Zillow.
How come he don't want me, man?
How come you don't want me? That was pretty. Whoever did that, who
Who do you
did that
think?
Instagram yesterday?
Who do you think?
Yeah, that was yours.
Yes.
You just don't want me. That was so brutal. Okay, sorry, I'm laughing too much now. So did
All right,
you
let's get
guys see?
serious.
I
Got
just
some
want to
serious
ask the
numbers to
audience
talk
if they
about.
saw the Microsoft introductions
God.
where people were describing their visual appearance, and it was like an SNL skit of like the end game of wokeness and intersectionality. Did anybody see that today? We'll talk about it at the end. I thought it was pretty funny. But it was for the visually impaired, so good intent, just very weird execution. All right, so let's do the news, and I'll take some of your questions. Go ahead and smash the thumbs up on the YouTube channel so we get more people watching live. Okay, we'll start with Uber, then do Airbnb, and then Peloton. 3, 2. Okay, Uber, which you may have heard I was the third or fourth investor in 11 or 12 years ago, reported their Q3 earnings today, and they grew revenue 72% year over year, which is amazing. But keep in mind, that's pandemic Q3 to this year's Q3. Obviously, things started to open up this year, and they took a net loss of $2.4 billion, mostly due to the CCP and their actions against Didi. If you remember, Didi, which is the Uber of China, was competing against Uber in China. That was an incredible decision by Travis and Emil and the team over there to really try to build a startup like Uber inside of China. Very rarely has that been done. And when they exited China, because they were behind Didi, they came to an agreement with them where they would get a significant portion of Didi. I think at the time it might have been 15, 16%. Now, you remember I talked about this Didi saga back on episodes 1241 and 1251. The CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, paused new downloads. They made sure Didi underwent a massive data inspection. And this all happened like right around the same time as the stories around Jack Ma and Ant Financial were happening. And we've obviously seen the Chinese government's crackdown on privacy, on entrepreneurship, on capitalism continues. It may be sideways right now, is I think what a lot of people are thinking, and that China is going to start growing their companies again now that they have control over them. And so Uber still owns something like 12% of Didi, but their market cap has been cut in half since peaking at 80 billion shortly after their IPO. So that obviously is headwinds against Uber, which has a big position. The stock has been down slightly and up slightly in off hours because, and it's trading around $45 a share, which by the way was the IPO price. So Uber's had quite a ride due to COVID. In fact, all three stocks that we'll talk about today and all three tech companies are really greatly impacted, perhaps impacted more than anybody by COVID. So a couple of notes here. You know, when you look at Uber, I like to look not just last year, but the year before, which was pre-COVID. So total revenue, 4.8 billion is extraordinary, up 72% year over year. Now you say 72%, that's unbelievable, right? We've been talking about the growth of these companies, 20, 30% is high growth. Here we have 72. Well, it's only up 28% from 2019, 2 years ago, which is pre-COVID, right? So they did take a massive hit for the rides business during COVID because people sheltered in place. So mobility revenue is up 62% year over year, and mobility means Uber Pool, which is coming back, by the way, which is interesting to see. And Uber Rides, the ride sharing business, is down 25% from 2019. So that was their big business. That was the tip of the spear. It's gone up 62% year over year. But again, that's because of the pandemic impact. The delivery revenue is just such an amazing story. Obviously, Uber Eats was nascent when the pandemic started, and they got this huge boost because people were sheltering in place and needed dinner and food, and restaurants couldn't have people sitting in seats. So every restaurant adopted delivery of food, whether it was DoorDash, Postmates, which was acquired by Uber, Uber Eats, etc. And delivery revenue was up to 2.23 billion. So you have mobility and delivery almost at the exact same numbers. But if you were to look at mobility back in 2019, it's up 3.5x, and it's 97% up year over year. In other
Delivery,
words,
you said mobility, delivery.
so delivery revenue is at 2.23 billion, up 97% year over year, and up 3.5% from 2019. That's the big story here.
3.5x.
And okay, I'm sorry. Delivery revenue is 2.23 billion. That's up 97% year over year. But here's the big story. From 2019, it's up 3.5x, right? More than triple. So the delivery business now equals the mobility, also known as the rides business. This makes a company like Uber anti-fragile. When people can't go out to dinner, delivery gets taken to given to their house, and they're adding all these new delivery options. They bought that company Drizzly, Corner Shop, and they've done a couple of other projects. I think Bed Bath and Beyond they announced. So this 15-minute grocery, half an hour to get electronics. This is going to become the norm. In other words, Uber is going to be a new Amazon competitor, in addition to doing the ride-sharing business. And I think that's super exciting for shareholders in Uber, which I still remain a shareholder in Uber and believe in the company. Freight revenue, interestingly, up 40% year over year and up 85% from 2019. Lior runs that business, and that's at 402 million. So that business is growing quite nicely. It seems small right now, just like Uber Eats seemed small 2 years ago. If this were to 3.5x, okay, now you're sitting on $1 billion business. Obviously, freight is something that's in Uber's wheelhouse. They know how to do logistics. They know how to move stuff around. Gross bookings, that means the total value of everything shipped, $23 billion. Wow, 57% year over year, up 40% from 2019 pre-COVID. And the delivery bookings is really interesting, 12.8 billion. Wow. And the take rate and mobility bookings were 9.8 billion. The take rate, in other words, the margin, what Uber gets from that large number, is 22% for mobility and 17.4% for delivery. Blended take rate, you put those two numbers together, 21%. Now the loss is $2 billion, that $2.4 billion loss. $2 billion of it is outside their control. Mostly Didi, the value of other companies they own shares in. So Uber only lost 400 million for the quarter, which is pretty great from a cash position. Uber has plenty of cash, apparently, and the price of rides went up, and they have fierce competitors. So the ability for Lyft and Uber to hit break-even, modest profitability was something we always wondered about, and here we are. There was a moment where Uber had a profitable quarter, I believe, a couple of quarters ago because of an outside investment as well. You really got to take those out and look at the core business. In all these cases, for all three companies we're going to talk about today, the way I look at it is, let's look at what the consumers are doing. Let's look at the actual revenue. When all these other numbers get taken into account, the investments and other investments at Alphabet or Facebook, looking at spending $10 billion on their VR and AR efforts. I always like to look at just what are consumers doing, whether it's the advertising spend on Google and Facebook or the deliveries here on these services, because that gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on. We talked also about monthly active users, daily active users, when we talked about Robinhood, I think last week. What Uber likes to talk about is MACs, MAPCS, monthly active platform customers. So this is unique customers who completed at least one ride or delivery in a given month. So that's, I think, very intellectually honest. It's not people who open the app or open the email like Nextdoor does. It's just, did you actually move yourself or food or delivery? Did you actually do a transaction? And so 109 million folks used Uber, or are using Uber per month. That's 40% year over year and 6% from 2019. Obviously, mobility is a big issue here. The rides business is challenged because they don't have enough drivers. And without enough drivers, wait times go up. When wait times go up, you have this cascading issue, which is people then don't feel they can rely on Uber or Lyft. If they don't feel they can rely on it, maybe they drive. If they drive, well, then you're not going to get the ride back. And so the habit of taking an Uber everywhere, the habit of taking a Lyft, and Lyft Line and Uber Pool going away, which were the low cost options or the lowest cost options, that also adds to this. So to reverse that, they have to get a lot more drivers on, which they're doing. How do you get more drivers on? You increase their pay. Now you don't hear as many people complaining about driver pay because driver pay has soared. And we have the opposite issue in America. In other words, the free market is working. People, if they're going to do jobs that are hard, manual labor, arduous, or maybe aren't delightful and easy, they're going to want to get paid for it. So that means prices go up. And then remember, all these people were saying, oh, the second Lyft or Uber or DoorDash raise prices, people are going to stop using the service. That's simply not true. That is proven to be wrong. People love these services and people are willing to pay for value. And I said that so many times to people. And, if Uber was losing back when they were a money losing company, a dollar per ride, 70 cents a ride, 60 cents a ride. Well, what if they raised the prices $2 a ride? Then they would be massively profitable. And it's like, well, why don't they do that? Because they were growing the monthly active platform customers. When you're a startup and you're in a race to build market share, you want to get as many people into the habit of using your product. And if you get them into the habit, then you might have them for life or at least decades. And that's really what Uber, Lyft, DoorDash were doing and are continuing to do, but to a lesser extent. Now, the stock market, Wall Street wants to see profitability. They want to see free cash flow. The stock market tends to judge these things ultimately by how much cash they throw off. And so there's your takeaway, right? When we do startup investing, and I remember the early days before Uber and Robinhood had launched, you're talking about the product, trying to delight customers, trying to build the customer base, and you forego profits for growth. When you go public, now everybody wants to see you grow. And if you don't, people no longer emphasize growth. They want to look at profitability. Of course, they would love both, but you can't just go all growth. Private market companies can do that because the investors are there to see how big of a franchise you can make. So other key metrics, active US mobility drivers in Q3 were up nearly 60% year over year and improved through October. I'm reading a quote, with 10 consecutive weeks of driver growth since the end of August. This is a really big deal. I want to pause on this for a second. When did unemployment end? The bonus unemployment in states, the COVID extra unemployment? It was supposed to end, I think, in September. And a lot of states started to pare back unemployment, I think, in August. So what we're seeing is as unemployment stimulus checks wane and are turned off, people are going to come back to work. This is one of the biggest problems in the economy. We've talked about it on the All In podcast a whole bunch. If people don't come back to work, then prices are going to remain high, and it kind of puts the entire economy into a bit of a seizure. And that's not what we want. What you want in an economy is monetary velocity. In other words, the dollars are moving around as much as possible. You make some money because you work as an Uber driver or a DoorDash driver, and then you order stuff on Amazon for your house and your kids. And then you take your family to Disneyland, and people are working at Disneyland. And so they're getting paid, and then they take an Uber home. You get the idea. The money is just moving around. If everybody stays at home and are getting stimulus checks and unemployment, the money's not moving. And that's why savings went up. We had record savings. That's not good it sounds good, but it's not good for the economy. You want money moving around. You want that monetary velocity, money changing hands, transactions occurring. That's what makes a vibrant economy, not just people sitting at home, not doing anything. And that's why UBI is a beautiful concept. Everybody gets free money. Sounds great on paper, but it could also lead to unintended consequences. So here's another quote about the driver situation from Uber. As a result, consumer experience metrics have improved towards pre-COVID levels, with completed trips ETA close to 4.5 minutes at the end of October. This is the key statistic. I can tell you from the early days of Uber, when I would talk to Travis and the management team over there, they just wanted to get wait times to go down. Do we all remember the early days of Lyft, Zimride, Sidecar, and Uber, and how amazing it was when you clicked on an Uber in a major city and the driver would look at you because they were across the street and they'd make a U-turn. You remember those? I named it actually inside of Uber as an Uber Uno. When you got an Uber in 1 minute, we called it an Uber Uno. And that was a magical, magical moment for folks. And that's why people became addicted to it and were willing in Los Angeles to not get cars, where people would move from New York City to Los Angeles and never get a driver's license. A lot of New Yorkers famously don't have driver's licenses. Like, well, I'll just take an Uber. The second you have an Uber take 30 or 40 minutes, or you go somewhere around the world, this has happened to me, and you take out the Uber app and there's no cars available, you have this like sense of dread and panic. Because, as we talked about earlier in this piece, what these companies are about is building a habit and security. And when that habit is broken and the security goes away, you have to rebuild that trust. That's what all of these companies are going through right now, is rebuilding that and getting the economy cranking again. And this is really great, even outside of Uber, as a leading indicator of the economy. The fact that Uber Pool is coming back and Lyft Line's going to come back, and that drivers and wait times are going down and drivers are coming back for 10 weeks in a row. This is a very positive sign. Let's hope, knock on wood, that we don't get another variant of COVID, which would absolutely be devastating for me because I can't be cooped up like a lion in a cage for much longer. I started to go out and venture out. And one of the reasons I tried to lose weight was because I really am convinced everybody's going to get COVID at some point. So you might as well just be in as best shape as possible. And obviously, if age and weight are the two vectors, I can't change my age, but I can change my weight. So I'm just trying to be healthier. In related news, New York City officials have struck a deal on Wednesday with the Taxi Workers Alliance to help rescue thousands of cab drivers from insane predatory loans and debt practices. If you didn't know this, hold on, guys. Hey, guys, I'm on the phone. I'm on a call right now, okay? Can you give me 10, 15 minutes? Okay. 15 minutes? Use your iPad and play 2 games. Two games for 20 minutes. Okay. Use your time timer. Okay. Thanks. Well, whatever. You can use the time timer or just 20 minutes, okay?
I'll do it on my iPad.
Okay, on your iPad. Sounds good.
Okay, what was 20?
Like 20 minutes is like watching one episode of Star Wars.
Long episode?
Like a long episode, yeah. You can watch an episode of The Bad Batch if you want.
I want to miss it.
You can watch the last episode, and then I'll watch the new one with you later, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Daddy?
Yes. I have to go right now because I'm on a call.
Can I tell time on my iPad and
Yes.
how long is that?
20 minutes. 20.
20.
20. Okay, good luck.
Okay, bye.
All right. Apparently, one of my 5-year-olds.
What a polite young lady.
She's very. Did you hear the conversation?
The whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She's like, how long is that? I'm like, it's like one episode of The Bad Batch, like Star Wars Clone Wars. She's like, a long episode or a short episode? And then I was like, well, watch a Bad Batch episode. And she's like, I don't want to watch it without you.
I just want to know.
Maybe we should only do one
is.
earnings. Maybe we should get out of here after this and go hang out.
Oh, God. Okay, here we go. 3, 2. All right. So the Taxi Workers Alliance is one of the largest group of drivers and taxi debt holders in New York City. So the city could spend $100 million or more in a bid to eliminate hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. Just so you know, what happened was, these drivers all went into debt to get medallions in New York. It's a whole predatory business. It's really gross and disgusting. I remember when I lived in New York, taxi drivers were always fighting with customers, not all, but some. And people were questioning, like, why are the drivers under so much stress? And, why is this, they're driving too fast? And, well, time was money. They were under massive time pressure. They would leave, the dispatch and they would be negative $150, which meant if they made 10, 15 bucks an hour, it would take them 10 hours of a 12-hour shift just to hit break even. They might only make $100 or something. It was a really hard business. And they artificially capped in a lot of these cities with medallions who could run taxis. And you know who wound up buying them? Like all these attorneys and politicians knew about this grift and they bought them. Why should there be medallions at all? Why can't there be an unlimited number of drivers in a city? Why should it be capped? That was one of the original questions that the Uber team had. Like, we're not taxis. we're ride sharing, we're something new. And that great fight is what created this vibrant market. Consumers won, and the people who lost were the medallion owners, who were horrible people, who were predatory. And I'm really glad that the New York taxi drivers are now getting, some debt relief here, because it's just brutal for them to be under this much. And they literally did a hunger strike. That shows you how severe it was. And people are out here criticizing Uber or Lyft or technology startups. Let's look at who they've replaced. Let's look at the incumbents first, and let's look at who was making money there. Okay, Airbnb also reported their Q3 results, and their profits rose almost 4x year over year to $834 million. Again, another company on demand. People had a lot of questions about maybe they have too many employees. Stock is trading at $178 a share. That represents almost $120 billion market cap. Congratulations to everybody at Airbnb. Such a great team, great investors. Really happy for them. Quarterly revenue was the highest it's ever been, $2.2 billion, up 70% year over year and 36% over 2019. Whenever you see that 20, 30% growth or more year over year, and again, pandemic, people not traveling during the pandemic, not being allowed to travel, shelter at home, all that stuff comes into play here. Total nights and experiences booked, 79.7 million in Q3, up 29% year over year. If you don't know, they have an experiences category. They don't have cars, they don't have boats, but they do have experiences. Have dinner with a chef or go on a tour. I'm not sure what percentage of their experiences are actually nights versus experiences, but 29% year over year and down 7% from 2019. Most interesting takeaway, revenue and profits are rising fast. 70% revenue increase, almost 4x profit, 4 times the profit, which is great. And the total number of bookings only increased 29%. So they're more efficient, in other words. And if you remember, they did cut like 25% of their employees, and $800 million from their marketing budget back in July of 2022. I'm sorry, back in July of 2020 during the pandemic. You remember how it was really scary. How long is this pandemic going to last for? We've got to get rid of employees. They did this incredibly generous severance, but they basically bunkered down. And here is the result, that we're seeing 18 months later, or so. The company is coming out of it even stronger, and they're more disciplined. So they're very disciplined about their expenses. And I think, that's what you're going to see across the board in technology companies, startups that go public. Public markets are demanding efficiency, profitability. So be it. If the markets want to see that in addition to growth, great. Sometimes companies can grow 10%, 30% faster and lose money, but that's not what the public markets want. Public markets win because the stock price will go down if you don't give them what they want. So that's what we're seeing here. All of these companies now are right sizing and giving the public markets what they want. It's very hard to fight your shareholders as a public company. As a private company, you can do whatever you want. The shareholders don't have much say. It's a private company, nothing's disclosed, and it's a small number of shareholders. You can say, listen, here's our plan. Don't invest in the company if you don't want to. When it's a public company, slightly different. I did see a story that 135 hedge funds had bought into Uber, which they were saying in this story, I don't know if it's true or not, that's a massive sign of strength because they're, pretty hardcore investors. And Brad Gerstner, who's been on this program and All In, has some like massive position now in Uber. I've talked to him about it. He's very bullish on the company. And most people have price targets $60 or $70, which would be great for me. And I hope it happens. And congratulations to both teams. Other notes on Airbnb. People are also living in Airbnbs using this long-term stay. Long-term stays of 28 days or more was the fastest growing category for them and accounted for 20% of gross nights booked in Q3. That's up 14% year over year. That's crazy. Let's just pause there. 1 out of 5 bookings are for 28 days or more. That is definitely pandemic related and basically nomads, right? The fact that you can work from home, again, another second order impact of the pandemic is people are becoming nomadic or people are doing longer stays. And so who's the beneficiary? Who's the beneficiary of that? Obviously Airbnb and the people who are the hosts. and more people are interested in hosting. Apparently, in Q3, hosts earned $12.8 billion on Airbnb, up 27% year over year. They don't list the number of active hosts, but we did see a footnote in a press release. They claim over 4 million hosts have rented out a space since 2007. Who knows how many are active? But that would mean the average host would have earned 3,200 in Q3. I don't buy that. I would say maybe if they've had 4 million hosts since then, they maybe have, half of those are active. So maybe $6,000. Some, but it could also be larger because that number doesn't, it's not clear if if that means an active host has 5 properties. And I know we all know people in our lives, or maybe when you rent places, who own multiple Airbnb properties. So really hard to know what is going on in terms of the number of folks. But let's move on to Peloton. Again, another company massively impacted by the pandemic. This is going to be a business case for all time. All 3 of these companies, including Robinhood and Coinbase, right, which benefited from the stimmy checks and people being at home and no sports being on TV. Do you remember that from the pandemic's height of the pandemic? There was no sports. Well, Peloton was down 31% in after-hours trading today after their quarterly earnings showed a decrease in bike sales and a massive increase in costs. Their current market cap is now $26 billion. Total revenue was $805 million, grown 6% year over year. This is after revenue boomed 232% from 2019 to 2020. Why? Gyms were closed. People set up bikes at home. I have the tread at home. I don't have the bike. And it's super expensive for a subscription. I think it's $30-$40 a month on top of the cost of these treadmills and bikes, which are not cheap. Subscription revenue for them for the quarter was $304 million. That's 94% year over year. That's where they make their money. Is, if I'm paying $30 a month, that's like $90 a quarter or something. Maybe it's $100 a quarter. That would imply 3 million subscribers. I don't know if that's actually true, but actually I just did the back of the envelope and it says they have 2.5 million accounts paying $39 a month. So my back of the envelope was pretty close. They also have 887,000 subscriptions for their $12.99 digital only app. So you may or may not know this. Some people just buy the cheapest bicycle they can find, and they buy the Peloton classes and put an iPad. So if you were to go to Amazon where you typed DIY Peloton bike, you can find people who do their own DIY Peloton bike, which pretty cool. If you ask me, and pretty smart of them to have the digital only app. And also in their app, they now have cross fitness, yoga, and other types of classes. So that's kind of cool. They have a healthy 12-month retention rate of 92%. That's amazing. And you think about it, if you're buying a Peloton, you're rich, you're affluent. These things aren't cheap. $40 a month is $500 a year. And plus the bike cost $1,000, $2,000, whatever the treadmill cost. This is not a cheap thing. This is for the top, part of society currently. I think it will get cheaper as time goes on and more affordable. But there were fewer bike sales. And that's really the challenge here. And they lowered the price of their bike by $400 in August of this year, 2021, to get younger members. And so they are just getting crushed by that. And their costs rose significantly because of the supply chain. So here we go. Try to keep this in your head at once. Massive increase in sales because of COVID, then massive pain and suffering as people go back to gyms and they're stoked to get back outside because stay-at-home orders and shelter-in-place orders are lifted around the country and world. But there's supply chain, so even if people do want to buy one, you can't get it to them. Really, really tough. Also, they had the Treadmill Recall, which, there was like these tragic cases of kids playing on the treadmill, which parents, please lock your gyms, take out the safety key and put a PIN code on your Peloton. Right after they had a couple of reports of deaths with the treadmill, they said anybody could recall them. I was like, I'm not giving my treadmill back. Why would I do that? And the software was updated and said, put a PIN code in. I put a PIN code in and I always had the safety key on it. I take the safety key out and I put it in a little cup. So if one of the little ones goes to the gym, they simply are not allowed. There's no way for them to turn on the treadmill because there's 2 safety mechanisms. 1, the PIN code, 2, the safety key. 3, if they even come in the gym, I hit the stop button. and I pull the safety key out. I will not be on the treadmill with them in the gym, period, end of story, because I've seen the videos, and you probably heard tragically about Mike Tyson's daughter who died in a treadmill accident, not a Peloton treadmill. These things are very dangerous. They're moving very fast. Kids and dogs need to stay away from them. And if you just put your hand on them, like an escalator, I mean, think of them like more dangerous than an escalator. You can look at treadmill accidents on YouTube, and you will see kids getting dragged under the treadmills because that tread is going so fast that if a kid tragically gets caught under it, they can get pulled under the treadmill, and then it hits their skin, and it gives a crazy rash burn. It's really tragic. And Peloton went over the top and said, "We'll recall all treadmills." I thought that was over the top and unnecessary. Their treadmill, I don't believe, is any. Somebody can fact check me on this, but I don't know that their treadmill is any less safe than any other treadmill. Kids should not be in the room with weights, tonal machines, treadmills, anything. It's just dangerous. And so if you look at their gross margin on the bikes and the treads, that really is going to impact CAC, customer acquisition cost. We all know about that. But their LTV and their net CAC is probably really good because the lifetime value of these things is extraordinary. If somebody sticks with it for 5 years, it's $2,500 in subscriptions, which are basically pure profit. Plus, maybe they made a little bit on the treadmill. They should be losing money on the treadmill. They should be losing money on the tread or breaking even. Who cares? You just want to get those subscriptions cranking. And it is the Apple of workout products. Anybody who's used a Peloton knows it's super elegant. I think this company is going to do great things over time. And subscription margins are extraordinary. They say the gross margin is up to 66.7%, which is amazing. And they're over $1 billion if you were to analyze this quarter in subscription revenue a year. So their market cap is 21x their subscription ARR. That's not too shabby. I think, if you were a SaaS company like Slack or Zoom, you would get a much higher multiple than 21 times. It's a consumer subscription, so it might not have the characteristics of land and expand. In other words, like if you bring Slack into an organization, it might go from 100 people to 1,000. That's not going to happen in your gym at home. You might go from, and actually when you buy the $40, I think you get a couple of, and you have a treadmill or a bike, I think you get 3, 4, 5 family members. So there's no land and expand here, and churn could be higher as people just decide to lapse, whereas companies can't. So congratulations to Peloton on making a great product, and it's going to be difficult to work out the supply chain issues, but stay the course. I think it's a great company. It's a wonderful product. People are addicted to it. And this might be a buying opportunity, actually, if people don't believe in it.
Great. You want to tee up Okay Boomer?
Sure. Okay, 3, 2. All right.
Oh, hold on. Rachel, you camera ready? Get that QuickTime started.
Oh my God, did I not put my QuickTime on? Guys didn't tell me to put my QuickTime on.
Yeah, we did.
No, you didn't. You always have to make sure you remind me and ask me for the count.
All right.
That is your job, not mine. Okay. Are we going to be able to use all this? The quality
Yeah, that's good. You didn't break up.
Okay. I'm on the high quality audio, so that's good. Just please, always with everybody confirm that it's counting up. All right, 3, 2. Okay, we're going to debate 3, 2. Okay, today we're going to debut a new segment. It's called Okay Boomer, and it's with our new producer Rachel. Rachel, are you there?
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Okay, so everybody knows this new segment. Actually, nobody knows. So to explain to our audience, we want to, for the older members of our audience, I'm Gen Z. There are some boomers in the audience. There are some millennials. We want to look at Gen Z, and we want to look
You're
at...
Gen X, Jason. You said you were Gen
Right.
Z.
3, 2. Okay, for those of you who can't guess what Okay Boomer is, this is a segment where producer Rachel will report on something happening with Gen Z, and I, as a member of Gen X, will represent boomers and Gen X and maybe millennials, and we'll talk about it. Now, Rachel, I'm not sure your exact age, but you are Gen Z or millennial?
I am Gen Z. I was born in 1997. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So you're born in 1997. I was born in 1970. So I was 27 years old when you were born. I'm 50. That means how old are you? You're 24?
Almost 24. Yeah, 23
Almost
right now.
24. Okay, great. So this is our first segment. What do you have to share with us today about what's going on in Gen Z land?
So today we're going to be focusing on hiring, specifically with the Gen Z audience. So last week, the New York Times published an awesome article titled "The 30." So last week, the New York Times published an article titled "The 37-year-olds are afraid of the 23-year-olds who worked for them." And the article actually covered how millennials and Gen X managers are dealing with like the new quirks, basically, of the Gen Z employees. And the article actually covered some pretty funny situations that I will let you go into if you feel like you want to share. But I had the chance to speak with a featured 22 but I had the chance to talk to a featured 22-year-old named Ziad Ahmed, who runs a Gen Z consulting firm. And basically, his firm helps boomer clients reach and engage
Ah,
with a younger demographic. And that
and
is
I saw the
currently,
headline for this article, but I didn't read the story. So the person you spoke with was mentioned in the story. Is that
yes,
correct?
yes,
Okay.
correct.
So, and then what were some of the situations in the story before we go to the interview?
So, in the New York Times article, for example, at one biotech company, an entry level employee uh, has to the founder. Sorry, there. In one example, at a biotech company, entry-level employees were delegating tasks to the founder, which was kind of crazy. And at another
Well, that's interesting.
example, right? And one Gen Z worker
I don't.
was
I don't suggest trying that. If I give you stuff to do, just
yeah.
for the producers right now, I don't think you should delegate them back to me.
I don't think that would go over very
No,
well on this
no, not with
end,
this
but
Gen Xer.
another really interesting example was one Gen Z worker asked why she had to stay for a full 8-hour shift if, she got through her entire to-do list. So that was a really interesting argument.
Well, I mean, there's a pretty good example of that. I mean, you're getting paid by the hour, but she does make a fair point. If I can get it done in less time, that's a fair discussion for you to have with your Gen Z contemporaries at the bar after work after your 8-hour shift. I had those. But that is not something that you get to go to your boss. You could say, I got this all done. Can I do more work? And then maybe get a raise if you proved yourself to be more. I wonder why
And
she didn't do that.
yeah. Well, I think that's also why we do our like start of day and end of day, kind of like you mentioned in a previous episode, where like if you're
Yeah.
not doing enough or if you see yourself kind of running through your to-do list before the end of the day, there's always more work to be done. At least that's how
Yeah.
it works here. And maybe it has something a little bit different because maybe this person was paid hourly. But then why wouldn't you want more money if you stay longer? That's what my first thought was. I was like, well, if she was a shift worker and got paid like hourly, wouldn't you want to like keep working
Yeah, you
if
got to
you
work,
got
you did the
paid
6
hourly?
hours, you
Yeah.
commuted there. Now you want to
Yeah.
leave early?
Yeah. So
Kind of
that
weird.
was my first thing. Like, you know what? If I'm getting paid and I'm already there, but to
You
each
want to get
their
those extra
own.
2 hours. You might want to get an
Yeah.
extra 2 hours of overtime. And get
Right?
paid
Like time and a half would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All
So
right.
those
So,
were two really good ones. But I talked to Ziad, like I mentioned before, who is
okay.
a founder of a consulting firm.
So he gets paid to explain to, if I got this right, you interviewed him. He gets paid to explain to boomers and Gen Xers how to deal with their Gen Z employees.
Correct. And
Okay.
not just him, he has an entire team. This is a full functioning operation, that's for
Wow.
sure. So yeah, he is definitely CEO, founder, and there are other people working for him.
So we have a segment called
And
Okay
it's
Boomer.
sorry to jump in. It's more so he gets paid to help brands consult on how to like better market and get Gen
Got
Z
it.
customers.
All right. 3, 2. Okay. So he helps companies figure out how to get more Gen Z customers.
Correct. And he has a bunch
Got
of
it.
other Gen Z people working underneath him. So
Got
he
it.
was a very cool person to talk to.
So basically, it's like the OK Boomer segment we're doing here. It's OK Boomer as a service. Let's go to Rachel's interview.
Wait, before you do that, I think Rachel, you should see up some of the things that you talked about. Like
By the way, is
specifically,
Rachel breaking up, by the way, her video for you guys?
Yes.
pause for a second for me.
Okay, great. Okay.
I would, but her audio is good and she's recording her QuickTime, so we're fine. But I would talk about the Coinbase thing that you asked him about. Jason, this kid, I shouldn't call him a kid. He's 22, but he's a man. This guy, he is essentially the exact opposite of you or David Sachs. He is like, bring politics into the workplace, bring your whole self to work. Yeah, he actually said
I
to
got
Rachel,
it. I got it. Yeah. Okay.
he said half of his time he spends dealing with emotional labor, meaning like people's feel. It was
All
crazy.
right. I got it. Okay. So Rachel, what are we going to hear in this interview? Any highlights we should look out for?
I think the question that I asked him about Coinbase was very interesting. And I brought up how Coinbase mentioned how you should probably leave politics at home before coming to the workplace. And I asked him his thoughts on that. And he actually differed quite a lot. And then he also brings up this really interesting term called emotional labor. And he mentions that several times. So
emotional
that's a great
labor.
One. Yes. And he does define that in the interview.
Okay. I'm looking forward to skewing that and disagreeing with him just based on that specific term of art. Let's roll the tape.
All right, good.
This has gone great already.
It was amazing. It was actually really interesting to hear.
Do I get to hear it? Can we play it?
No, we're not going to play it now. We're going to play it tomorrow when the show comes out.
Well, I don't know what to react to then. Can I just hear the clip of that moment? The idea here is I have to hear it. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah,
how am I supposed to comment on it? So
maybe
you
can
just
explain it. Yeah,
I need to hear it, honestly. Like, just fast forward to that moment and let's just play that moment, so at least I have something.
I don't think Charles is going to be able to do that. It's about 19 minutes.
21 minutes.
21 minutes.
Okay, can somebody just share it with me in the thing, and or just
it's
play
not,
it on your computer?
I haven't exported it because it's part of the show. So,
guys, you got to think this through.
I thought this was gonna be a like an outro.
Well, I said very explicitly we're teed up, and then we would do questions at the end. How can we do questions at the end if I don't hear it?
No, you're right. We can't.
Okay. Right. Perfect. Okay. So an oversight. So then I could salvage this by just throwing to it, and we'll see you next week on OK Boomer. Okay. Here we go. 3, 2. Okay, Rachel. I'm really looking forward to your interview, and I don't know what you have teed up for next week, but if anybody has ideas for this segment, you can always DM TWI Startups on Insta, TikTok, or Twitter, and you can email producers at This Week in Startups with your ideas for OK Boomer. What are we going to hear in this interview?
So in this interview, can you pronounce his name one more time? Ziad, correct, Nick?
Ziad Ahmed.
Ziad. So in this interview, Ziad got to talk about how he treats his own employees as fellow Gen Zers and his idea of leaving politics at home, which differs quite a lot from the Coinbase CEO that we've mentioned in previous episodes, where he believes you should kind of like keep politics at home, for lack of a better term, and come to the office without that. Ziad sees it as bringing your full self to the office, and he explains it in a way with it using the term emotional labor, which he does describe.
I'm sorry. I thought that was my bad ear. I thought you said emotional labor.
Yep. Emotional labor. You caught that.
Emotional labor. Oh boy. We're really kicking off this segment well. I can't possibly disagree more without even hearing the interview yet, but let's play the tape of the interview, and we'll discuss it some more next week on your next segment. Thanks for reporting on Gen Z for OK Boomer.
Great. Intro's at the top.
Okay, great. Good job.
Rachel, want to turn your camera off?
Yep. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
3, 2. Okay, we've got a jam-packed news show for you today. We're going to break down the earnings report for Uber, Airbnb, and Peloton. These are all stocks that were greatly impacted in many different ways by the pandemic. Both shelter at home, which made everybody buy a Peloton and deliver Uber Eats, but it shut down all of Airbnb. Remember, they had to lay off 25% of the company. Then everybody YOLO, a year and a half later, wants to get out and to do longer stays. Airbnb has an incredible business in longer stays now that they didn't have previously. Peloton is suffering because they no longer and Peloton is suffering because they have supply chain issues after everybody was buying machines because they couldn't go to the gym. What a mess. We sorted it all out. And then we're going to do our first edition of OK Boomer, in which producer Rachel explains to me, as a member of Gen X and I will represent the boomers as well, what is going on in Gen Z land. We're going to have these generational discussions every Friday on the show. Stick with us. Acceptable?
Good.
We can do it again.
Nope, that was fine.
All clean? Okay. If you have a sentence that doesn't feel clean and you don't want to edit it, I can take that sentence. And then we can, okay, great job. Okay, so now I'll upload the 11 minutes of QuickTime I have. I don't even know if I should bother. Do you
No,
want it?
absolutely. Yes, do.
Okay. Okay, Boomer Day, Boomer News. Okay. All right, great job. And for my noties, I'll take one question for my noties. Just I'll take one notey question. Producers
There you
need
go.
emotional labor working with Jake. What is emotional labor?
He described it as he said, you know the feeling you get when you're really tired after you have like a big fight with your significant other?
Yeah.
And he's like, you feel like you worked a full day after you get in a
No,
fight
you
with your
didn't.
girlfriend or boyfriend.
No, you
right?
didn't. You're entitled.
You know,
You're entitled. That's what you are. You didn't actually work a full day. Ask somebody who digs ditches or drives a cab for 12 hours. Ask a New York City cab driver what it's like to work for 12 hours. Ask somebody who delivers DoorDash. That's the feeling, not this.
he's a smart guy, and it's a roller coaster of an interview because you're like, ugh, and then you're like, oh God, oh yeah, no, fair enough. Oh no,
You think the people at Facebook are doing a lot of emotional labor or what? Meta.
Oh, that's so meta.
It's so meta.
Got me.
Oh,
Listen.
I have two pickups for you,
HR
actually.
in my book stands for harsh reprimand. That's what somebody
You know who
just
runs?
said.
You know who runs HR at launch?
Ashley.
Nope.
What?
Nope.
Not sure. How do you run it?
Nope.
Okay, you tell me.
You're
Nobody?
talking to him.
What do you mean you run HR?
Yeah. You didn't
How do
know
you
that?
run HR?
Ashley appointed me as head of HR when she went on maternity leave.
No.
Yeah.
What do you
I'm head
do
of
as
HR.
head of HR? I'm now
Make sure the H's are R'd.
Oh, okay, great.
Make sure the humans are a resource. That's it.
We don't even need HR. I mean, like
I think I'm doing a great job, honestly. No, nothing bad
everybody
happening
works.
under my
I mean,
watch.
I think
I run a tight ship.
You run, I think if you hire the right people and you tell them they have to manage themselves and get shit done, and if you can't do that, don't work here. You're good.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I don't know if since you've been here, if anybody, yeah, you've had one or two people not make it on your team. You had one person on your team not make it. Like if they don't make it,
I've had 5 people not make it since I've been here.
Really?
One on my team.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. One on your team,
And
I know.
4 others. Yeah.
4 others. Yeah. So I think we keep. I mean, there's voluntary and there's involuntary. So if you have people leaving voluntarily, they found a better job, that's fine. And then you have to look at involuntary, you had to fire somebody, and there's different lessons you take from each. If it's involuntary, you didn't hire the right person, or you didn't give them the right instructions of how to be successful, you didn't mentor them properly. And that happens sometimes. And then if it's involuntary, it's typically somebody didn't like the culture, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think of
many different cultures.
4 were involuntary that see you
They
later.
couldn't get it done.
One was one was
We
how
don't talk about it on
describe
air.
it. Yeah.
We don't have to talk about it. I mean,
No, I'm making an amalgam.
Oh, if you're making I mean, basically, there's a pace that we work at this company, I think. And the way I always explain this to people is like there's running groups. And if you run, let's say you're just a jogger and you do 10, 11-minute miles. If you join a running group that does 9 and 10-minute miles, you're going to have to keep up, and it's going to be hard. And if you want to be a faster runner, you should, if you're doing 11-minute miles, probably want to run with the 9, 10-minute mile group. If you're in the 9, 10-minute group and you really feel like that's where you get your joy and you get injured if you go any faster, like joining the 7-minute group is going to be pain and suffering, and you don't enjoy it, and you're going to get injured and you're going to hate it. So just get out of there. Yeah. The end.
It also means that some of the other runners have to run a little bit faster.
Let's just assume, like in our company, everybody runs at a, I would say like an 7-8 mile pace. Like we're not sprinting, but we're not jogging. Let's be honest. It's like 7 or 8 minute mile, right? And I purposely set it up that way. Like work hard, do a nice run, get a good sweat on, 8-minute mile. That's the way I would describe what we do. If you're a jogger, like that's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. You could do it for a couple of days, but your body's going to be in pain. You're going to need to, get in shape, and it's just not for you. And then there's some places, if you're an 8-minute mile, I mean, imagine any of you go work at NPR or some, I don't know what place that has a
Hey.
slower pace. No offense.
Yeah, you got a straight bullet to NPR there. Come on.
I mean, whatever.
We have good relations with NPR right now.
PBS.
What are we doing?
PBS. I'm not
We
a
had.
Yeah,
We had. I think we might be on the shit list now.
I guess. Yeah.
But I do think there's like something there about like just you have to be in a place that's not too hot, not too cold, just right for you. And it's up to the employers to make sure they explain that to you. That's why I have people meet with Ashley and Jackie, who've been here the longest, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is, 7 and 8 years each, because they can tell them like, hey, this is the pace we run. And don't come here if you can't RTFM. If you can't read the frickin' manual, like that's the thing that gets me. People are really talking about my teeth today. Thank you. Well, what happened was when I was a kid, these 2 teeth got busted because I fell into a fence in the backyard of PS 127 when I was 5 years old. So I cracked those 2 teeth in half, and then I had 2 little baby teeth here, and then I had to get them for like most of my life. They were puttied, and then they would grind down and fall off, and I have to get them puttied again. So they have the 6 veneers here. That's why they're so perfect, but not on the bottom, just the top where my broken teeth are. Everybody thinks I got put. No, I literally fell into an iron fence. Both teeth cracked at 5th grade. Not fun. No bueno. All right.
Go hang out with your kids.
I will.
Can I have an expressive face?
Hold on a second. Some segments in the last episode felt chopped up, distracting from the content. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't realize that. Which segment? Like a news segment? What do you think about that feedback?
I would have to know what episode specifically.
Yeah. Email producers at. Yeah, that was not a good fall. Oh, God. The wrought iron fence just cracked right in half. We're playing tag. We're running around with a bunch of kids, Not fun. Thoughts on AngelList Stack for incorporating in banking? I think there's a lot of services out there like that. I think you can use Stripe has one, right? There's a bunch of these services. I think it's great. If it's easier to start a company, you do need to have a great lawyer at some point. So get a good lawyer if you're going to be raising money for your company. If you're not raising money for your company, it's different. You might want to go with the cheapest possible, but yeah. All right, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.